Okay, let's try to do this again. I just recorded the whole thing and then I clicked X and exited the screen before it had downloaded and lost my whole program. So if I can take about 10 minutes of your time, we're going to hear about Dade's virtual march, Major Dade Memorial Virtual March. I think that's what it's called, but we'll find out here in a minute. As all of you know, our Dade Battle Reenactment has been canceled, which we're very sad about. The first Seminole War event I went to was the Dade Battle Reenactment. When they did the first big reenactment in 1985 for the 150th anniversary of Dade's battle. And so we've done it every year, maybe gotten rained out a few times, but always had an event there. Sadly, this year it's been canceled. But we decided, well, we needed something else to do. So Patrick Swan, he's been helping out the Seminole Wars Historic Foundation. He came up with an idea of an alternative that you don't have to worry about COVID. You can do this on your own, and it'll be a lot of fun. Uh, what happens, Patrick, he was a Army colonel, and he's retired now. But a few years ago, he did Hadrian's Wall in England, marched or hiked the whole length, 82 miles. And as he'd go along the way, he'd get little virtual postcards on his cell phone. And so that's pretty cool. So he wanted to do something to commemorate Dade Battlefield, Dade's men, and the march they did. So he made a Fort King virtual march. And what it is that if you go to the Seminole Wars Foundation webpage, let me do a share screen and show you right here. Okay, here we are, the Seminole Wars Foundation, seminolewars.org. You go here, it'll tell you on the front page about the Major Dade Memorial March Virtual Challenge, that you'll go down the Fort King Road, but you'll do it virtually. You'll put in your mileage each day. You'll on your own. You can hike, bike, run, whatever. And as you put in the mileage, you enter it. It'll say how far you've progressed. So you have here about the march and about the Seminole Wars podcast that Patrick's done. It says click here for more information. So it takes you to the next page and it'll give you the lowdown on the virtual march. We're calling it Laumer's Legion. Frank Laumer passed away about a year ago at age 92 or 93. He was Dade Battlefield personified. He did everything to promote the battle. He wrote 3 books, numerous articles. In fact, he did the first march of Major Dade's men. In 1963, Frank Laumer, a man from the Florida Historic Society, a few friends and family, decided to march the route that Major Dade marched up the Fort King Road, sometimes along Highway 301, sometimes on paths. He said you could see the dirt path, the actual Fort King Road. And some of that still remains even to today. He said he had to climb at least 50 fences that he had to scale over, which is something you don't want to do today. You can really get arrested for trespassing, and there's a lot more houses that have been built since 1963. And he wasn't really trying to do an accurate portrayal or reenactment, but just generate interest for the park, which he did. And then some of the Seminoles came up and they did an ambush at the end. Some of the Seminoles from along the Tamiami Trail down south. And they had a cookout afterwards and a lot of fun telling stories, things like that. So you join Laumer's Legion by going to sign up here, click here to join. It'll take you to a webpage. What does it say? myvirtualmission.com March. And you can sign in here. Actually, it'll say join. You have to join first. And it'll cost you $25, but we'll get you an annual membership. of the historic or the Seminole Wars Foundation, which is $25. So you're just helping us out and get more information, historical information. You'll get a discount on the books. And you can join the march. Do it right now. And this map of Florida, that's the Fort King Road, shows where you start. And you air the mileage, and each day you'll progress along the road until you get to Bushnell Dade's battlefield around the around this area of the screen, I think. And the challenge will start on December 22nd. Some of you might want to try to do it in a day if you're doing a double marathon, but if you're like me, you can do it in 12 weeks. Enter 1.5 miles each day that you walk, and you'll get there. It'll do that. So enough of that. So that's the Dade, Major Dade's virtual march. Time today, a little more history behind. You see the soldiers in the virtual background. A lot of those guys participated in a march we did back in 1989. Actually, I was not with them at that time. I was actually in the army overseas. I was in Germany. So anyway, some of them did the Fort King march on the road, and this time they wore soldiers' uniforms with their muskets and bayonets and tried to actually camp at the same places. They stopped at Fort Foster, the site of Fort Dade, camped at the breakfast pond before coming into Dade Battlefield the next morning after that. And so we're pretty authentic to where they went, but it's a little dangerous because some of the route goes along US Highway 301, where they're trying not to get hit by cars. There was a dump truck of gravel that tipped over in front of them. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but they had to direct traffic until the emergency vehicles arrived. So that's one of the hazards with the virtual march. You have none of that. And they also did another march back in 2004, marching the Fort King Road. But we're getting old and fat, and we're much more a bigger target for cars hitting us. So we're not going to try to actually march the road. We figure the virtual march is the safest, closest thing we can do. So please join us and join the Major Dade virtual march. I'll put the link in the descriptions